Hey guys, it's Nakia. Welcome back to my channel. Okay, today's video is going to be a frequently asked questions video, and I'm answering questions that I see being repeated in the comment section of my video. So I wanted to kind of do an FAQ so that if anyone, like new subscribers, or even if you guys have questions that haven't been answered, maybe this will help answer some of that and put it all in one place. And I'll probably create like a series and continue to do this. So if you have any questions that you want answered by me, go ahead and leave it in the comment section below. Okay, so let's get into it with the first question. So the first question was, I'm in school for a data analyst. What are some entry-level roles that I should be looking into to gain some experience? So if you're looking to become a data analyst, if you can find a data analyst role that's kind of entry level, that would be great, of course. Something else you can look for that's in the same realm would be a BI analyst, which is business intelligence analyst, and they focus more so on tools than coding, but still get exposure to doing some coding, as well as you get to use a lot of the different BI tools. So that's a role that you could look for. And one that I don't really hear mentioned that I would recommend, which is where I kind of started in this world, you could say, would be in reporting. Look for jobs that say reporting or reporting and analytics, because before I became a data analyst, I was on a reporting team. And if you're not familiar, because this can vary by industry or by company, in reporting, what I did was I was a front end user. So our data science team, our data analysts, they were the ones that did the coding, created the dashboards, created reports for us to use. And I, on the reporting team, I would use those reports to report out on different metrics, different numbers, different results, those different types of things. So I was in reporting. I was responsible for gathering the data from these different reports, because there's, like, in my experience, there's no one report that's going to give you everything that you need. So I was responsible for going in, taking data from different reports, analyzing it, trying to give insights as to what's causing a number to be a particular way, or whatever the case may be. But that's what I did. So reporting and analytics, if you see a role there, that would also be a good start, a good place to get into, or, to progress to becoming a data analyst. So this next question is, can you do a video on how you created your portfolio to land your data analytics position? So my portfolio consisted of Excel dashboards. Like, that's what not really presented on the call. I provided that to my manager on my interview. So in my role in reporting, I just said that I was responsible for gathering data from different reports and putting it together so that that can be presented to our leadership. And one of the things that our data science, data analytics team, what they did was they would produce these reports that I would use. One of the reports, we frequently go through this, where we retire reports to come up with something better, or just retire it because no one is using it. So this one report that the VP that I reported to at the time in reporting loved this particular report. The data science team decided they were going to retire the report in Excel, because it was like formatted in an Excel dashboard type, and they were going to move it to Tableau. The VP did not like Tableau, the way it was presented. He wanted it in the same format. So it came down to us, because we were his reporting team. He wanted us to create it the way it was before. So that project came to me to do, and I worked on that for a while, where I created this Excel dashboard that had all the numbers together. You guys, I had to learn how to do macros. Don't ask me to do it today, because I don't know. I only learned how to do an Excel macro for that one particular dashboard, because I needed a way to automate and update certain aspects of it. But that dashboard was in my portfolio, as well as there was another report that the manager of this team that I was interviewing for, like for data analysts, I worked with his team sometimes to get specific data that I needed for reporting. And they built me a Tableau dashboard that I was using to report out on results. And he asked me about that dashboard, or he asked me about the Tableau dashboard, what I did with the data. So that was kind of like randomly during the interview, he's like, can you show me what you did with that data? So I pulled that up and I presented that on the call to him. That's what he was interested in, seeing what I did with that data. So that was what was in my portfolio was pretty much the Excel dashboards that I built, as well as the data that I used from the Tableau dashboard that his team created, and showing him what I did with the data, which was presenting a readout, kind of pretty much a deck to our leadership team on the performance. So it wasn't like anything fancy because I didn't have any experience with using or creating anything in Tableau. It was like I couldn't show something I never used, and I didn't think, oh, I should probably learn this stuff. I really didn't. I just presented what I actually did, what I was familiar with using. So that's what was in my portfolio for my interview. And this is going to kind of tie into the next question, was how did you get your data analyst role without knowing SQL? So when I applied for this position, it did say that SQL was like preferred but not required. So I applied anyways, but my manager, like after he hired me, he explained that he was willing to teach someone SQL because he was hiring for someone for experience in this particular field. And he's like, I can't teach anyone how to do what it is that I know that you do in this specific area at the company. So he was more so looking for someone that had prior knowledge and skills in this specific area, more so than SQL and Tableau and Click. He felt like, I can teach you how to use Tableau and Click, but I can't teach you like the knowledge and skills for this specific area. So he was more so looking for his team, he was more so looking for someone that had the knowledge and skills. So I hope that kind of helps you guys when you're looking at becoming a data analyst, to also look at the area you want to go into being something you feel you'll like and be comfortable in and interested in. Like, there are people that do data analytics in healthcare, in tech, in science. Like, there's so many different fields that you can be a data analyst in. I want you to know that having knowledge and skills in a particular area can also help you to land a role in data analytics if that's what you're looking for, because it's not only about SQL, Tableau, Click, Power BI, Python. It's not only those things. Also, to couple with it, I think you would be a better fit if you are going into an area that you like or have some knowledge of, if that makes sense. And that goes into this last question, which is, how dependent are you to the knowledge you have in a field a data set is related to? So they mentioned, like, in a prior video, I mentioned about Netflix and what a data analyst may be looking for there. And, they said, like, that's kind of easy to understand, but does your job require you to work in more complex fields like medicine, where you would probably need to read about the topic to create insights? So I would say yes, there are going to and I feel like this may be in general, but this may not be applicable to all data analysts, but typically a data analyst role is focused on a specific area. So healthcare, I would say that's one of those fields where you definitely need to have knowledge of how the healthcare system works, how billing and coding and all of that works to be successful as a data analyst. Not to say it's impossible to become a data analyst in that field in only having like SQL or coding experience and knowing how to use like BI tools, but I would think it's highly unlikely to work in healthcare without having a background in healthcare. But in general, we do get projects that have nothing to do with the specific area that we work on. I will give you an example. I got a project that I was working on in my specific area, and it evolved into a project that should have been handed off to another team. However, because it touched a little bit of what I was doing, it ended up sitting with me and staying with me. And I had to, you guys, I learned so much because I ended up having to work with our IT department. I ended up having to work with data engineers and data scientists and software engineers, because once I did more investigating, I found out that this was impacting an app that we have, and it just kind of spiraled out of control. And my manager said, oh yeah, I'm gonna let Nakya lead this project. So I was the one responsible for, since I discovered the problem, I became the one responsible for this entire project. And it had really only a little bit to do with what I did as a data analyst. But I had to learn about how the app works, how that data is fed into the system, how the schemas of the system are structured from other departments, so that I can learn, oh, okay, this is why it's impacting me and what I do. And this is what we need to figure out to get this worked, to get this fixed. And I feel like I became a project manager, and that's not my job, but that's what I had to do. And then outside of that, I've also done projects on work that's not focused on what I do or my specific area. And a lot of times it is more complex. Like, I'll say that my specific area can touch a lot of different other work groups and work that other teams would do, but I have to learn it if it touches me. So it can be more complex than what I'm used to. And I mean, that's kind of the norm a little bit, I would say. Like, as a data analyst, you could work on projects that you're not familiar with the topic, if that makes sense. Like, I'm more focused on performance management, but like working on something that has to do with an app is not in my realm, but I may have to if it's going to touch me. So I just have to learn about that, become the expert, and provide the results. And that's just what you have to do. And sometimes you don't even have a lot of time to figure it out, because we work in sprints, which is 2 weeks at a time. Yes, you can roll them over, but the clients don't like that. Just saying. So you have to kind of be quick about ramping yourself up and getting up to speed on these new areas that you're being called in to focus on, and do the work. Like, no, you don't have to have a background in a specific area, but I think that it is helpful if you do have a background in a specific area, and then you can evolve from there. And another part to that question was, do you need to know how a specific field works to be able to draw conclusions? And I would say no. Like, you can look at data, like you can look at financial data and see why, like, finances is not my area of expertise, but I can look at numbers and I can trend it out, and I can see like, oh, okay, this is not profitable. Like, in one of my other projects that I touch, I can see like, oh, I don't see a financial benefit to us pursuing this, that our marketing team wants to pursue these specific customers with like the iPad, Apple Pencil. Y'all remember that? So yeah, I didn't think it was financially responsible to go after those customers, but I also don't know if there's other parts of that project that are going to touch me or not. So I think in general, it is helpful to know how a specific field or data set works, but you may not always have that opportunity to do so. And just based on work that's given to you, you may not have a background in that data, but that doesn't mean that you can't draw insights from it. I think where I was coming from with the healthcare thing is that it does help when you know how certain tools work on the back end. Like, I'm sure there's billing and coding tools in healthcare that you have to know how that works in order to do your job and draw insights from it. Because for me, I have to know how certain tools work that our employees are using, because if I don't, how can I go in and validate results if something looks wrong? That was one of the things in that project I worked with IT. There were tools that were impacted that our employees were using. And I had to go and validate, okay, the data in the database is showing this. What is the data showing in the tool? And they did not match. So if I didn't have that prior knowledge on how to use those tools that our employees are using, then I'm not really being helpful to this project. So that is one thing that does help me draw insights, knowing how these other tools work that our employees are using, that our clients are using. So that's kind of where I was coming from there. So no, not necessarily required, but definitely helpful. I feel like I've rambled enough for now. I'm going to end this video off here. If you guys have any questions that you'd like me to answer in a future video, again, please leave them in the comments, and I will see you guys in my next one. Bye.